Welcome back to the second half of this episode about a missionary call. Just to recap, the first episode that we dropped, it really ended talking about how we as Christians can often consider the missionary call and then kind of give ourselves a license to do whatever we want if we feel like we aren't called to missions. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast as we dive in a little bit more of what it means to be a missionary, both full-time and then also in the workplace. How have you seen, I guess continuing like a biblical perspective on a missionary's call?
You know, it's so, as you're asking that question, Gerrit, I'm just like, I'm thinking about the million times I've heard people, and you've probably heard me say this before, but like, I'm not trying to be crass, but like the amount of times we should on people.
Mm-hmm.
And how it's like, you should do missions, you should do this, you should do that. And, you know, approaching this from like maybe a more gospel-centered viewpoint. Like, Jesus doesn't love me anymore because I went to North Myrtle Beach this summer.
Right.
So when I think about primary motivation in this conversation, I want to try to be as honest with people because there is a world who doesn't know Jesus. Like, we were out there this summer, and how many conversations between the two of us did we have where people were like, I don't know what the gospel is.
Right.
Maybe they received Christ or maybe they didn't, but there's so many people out there who genuinely don't understand the gospel. And so there is a real need in the world to go and to preach the gospel, to leave, like we did this article, you know, about the Titanic, and to like leave the safety of the life raft and get out there and start trying to reach people. There's a real like need for that.
Right.
But somehow we got to like balance that with this reality that like we're saved by grace and that we're not trying to earn God's love. We're trying to respond according to what's been given to us appropriately. And there are a lot of theological dynamics that go into this because Jesus talked about, you know, us being willing to forgive people because we've been forgiven. And Jesus talked about how we need to, you know, invest our lives wisely and how important that is. So there are a lot of kind of like the convergence of a lot of theological dynamics in this question.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that I think that there is a wisdom to the stewardship of our lives being directed at reaching people for Jesus as being the most beneficial things we can be doing with our lives. Like, we know drugs are bad.
Yeah.
We know being a cocaine addict is not a good way to live our lives. Although cocaine probably feels good at the time.
Yeah. I wouldn't know, but
I wouldn't know either, but let's just say because people get addicted to it, it probably feels good. We also know there's things that are less damaging to our bodies. I love fishing. I love surfing.
mm-hmm.
And we've talked about doing an episode on this. I could surf my life away. I could fish my life away and be totally unengaged with ministry and be super happy. I mean, granted, I'd have bills to pay and everything else. But let's say money's, no issue.
Yeah, you live your life to surf and fish.
And I could do those things and just be very, very content in those places. And that, again, that's not to say they're wrong or bad. They're far better than giving my life to an addiction. But they also don't necessarily result in reaching the lost. I just think when the cards are shuffled at the end, I'm mixing up something here. Hold on. When the pieces fall, when I die, when I'm dead, gravestone, I just think the best contribution to my life will be what I've done for other people. And that there's nothing better you can do for a person than helping them understand the love of Jesus. So then if I can give my life to one thing, and try to focus on one thing, I want to give it to helping people understand the love of Jesus. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a human. I still have needs for recreation, for relationship, I'm learning about my needs beyond just doing ministry all the time.
Right.
And that's just part of being human, but I think we still have this call and obligation to go out and to be a part of bettering the world, and we should try to do that to the capacities we have to do that with.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a tug of war in our students' lives where there's kind of our, I hate using the word culture because it's like, I don't know, Christians, sometimes we just dog on everything that's not Christianity.
The culture is all messed up,
but
and culture's problem.
I feel like a lot of voices around our students are, saying like, pursue your career, pursue financial stability, pursue comfort, pursue what makes you happy, and then there's a tug of war against maybe some things that we should on students, as you were saying, like that serving with crew is like one of the best things you can do, and doing ministry, sharing the gospel, like vocational ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say it's helpful to have kind of a pull both ways. And I think sometimes maybe we overdo our pull on the crew side of like,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be serving in ministry, otherwise it's disappointing that you're going into the field that you studied
Mm-hmm.
for 4 years to do. But at the same time, I think part of that just comes from a heart where we've seen God working in our lives through, for me, it's been a year now, 2 years, hopefully, of being in ministry and sacrificing time in maybe a field that we were passionate about. And for you, it's been 20 plus years of watching God work on campus. And I think what we really, the message we would want to portray is like, we would hope that your first foot forward would be to open that door to the Lord, and should he call you into it, like, awesome. And should he call you out of it, awesome as well. But I guess the warning, I don't know, that I would want to give and would want our listeners to hear is that, like, it can be really easy to say, not called to ministry, so I'm just going to do whatever I want. It can be easy to kind of check that box and move on and enjoy the comforts and the pleasure of life. And I don't think the discussion ends there with God.
Okay, I got a great illustration.
Do you?
Yeah, it just hit me. So Gerrit and I have been lifting a little bit together this last year. And my past with lifting, that I lifted a lot when I was playing football. And then I quit lifting for a long period of time. And then I realized oh wait, lifting isn't just for playing football.
Yeah.
Right? Weightlifting is for everyday stuff. Like, I don't want to be the dad who can't wrestle with their kids, because my back's always thrown out or whatever, And I just think the same thing goes, people go on a missions trip and they're like, sweet, I don't have to do the missional thing anymore. I'm done.
Right.
And it's like, no, weightlifting is for your whole life. Missionary work is for your whole life. And the reason it is it's multifaceted, right? Because it's partly to reach the lost, but it's partly to remind yourself of what really matters and all of these other things. Anyways, that just came to me.
I like that though. Yeah, not everyone becomes a NFL player or a power lifter.
Right, but that's not the whole point. It's like you need to incorporate some of this in your diet because, I would agree with the statement, and I don't know how you feel about this, but a Christian shares their faith.
That should be.
I just think that's a healthy dynamic, and where your outlet is. I was talking to my mom because she helps out with the dementia support group in her town, and helps out serving people with dementia. That's an outlet for her right now. You need outlets, missional outlets, to be able to be engaged in reaching people and to be engaged in working with people. Where you find those outlets and how you find those outlets is kind of the mystery of you following Jesus and then Jesus giving you opportunities to do that. But it should be the constant, and again, I want to be careful with the word should. I think God welcomes us into this relationship where his heart is always to be reaching and multiplying. I mean, I remember sitting down with this guy years ago at MEJ's here in Stevens Point, and he looked at me and he said something I always remember. He goes, and this is so true in nature, but he goes, Ryan, remember this. God multiplies. And look at everything that grows. The fish in the rivers, whatever, everything's multiplying. It is in God's nature to multiply.
Hmm.
And I think when it comes to spiritual life, like that is a huge dynamic that we have to say God multiplies and he wants to use people. He wants to invite, and I even don't like the word use, because I don't think God is in a used relationship. Like we associate use with like use and throw away, like this disposable mindset. God invites us into this amazing dynamic of allowing us to be a part of his redemptive plan in other people's lives. And that should be a constant theme. So.
Right. Yeah, there's such a tough dynamic with the should
right
idea of like, yeah.
Well, and even the seasonality. I mean, if God calls you into med school, like you're thinking, he's planning on doing at this point, and you're in that direction, there's going to be a day you're doing rotations and you're training in a way that your missional capacity is going to be limited.
Right.
And I think for you in that season to be able to say like, do we need Christian doctors? Yes, we want Christian doctors, absolutely, for lots of reasons. So in order to get a Christian doctor, you're going to have to get someone who for a period of their life probably puts the like broader missionary context on pause to be able to work through the classes you're going to take and the rigor that you're going to have to go through in order to get there, right?
Right.
And so in that context, you are going to be in a place where your ability to be missional is not going to feel as tangibly like right there. And I think you should be fine with that. Like, this is where God has me.
Right.
But I think in the grand scope of your life, I hope you come out of med school and you land in a career where you're going like, man, I got to find ways to really make this work and where I can see God moving. And I hope that you have that vision. But there are going to be seasons, and I think that's why, Paul wrote to Timothy and said, be prepared in season and out of season, right? Because the evangelistic work is seasonal. Like there are times you like North Myrtle Beach, put the pedal to the metal, 2,000 gospel conversations together. Awesome. Come back. Okay, take a break, catch your breath. Then we got to get back on the horse.
Right. Yeah, I think it all just boils down to what you said. Like Christians share their faith.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a should thing.
Mm-mm.
It's just like, for me, I think what I have to come back to is like, okay, is my relationship with God the best thing that's ever happened to me? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I not want to like share that with other people?
Right.
Yeah.
Like if I ate at a great steakhouse last night and it was like the best deal, like $14.99 ribeyes, with sides, this is like the best.
Oh yeah.
I'd be like, dude, Gerrit, you got to eat at this place. Is Jesus not better than a good ribeye? Like, right?
Right. And that's, I don't know. That's the thing that I like keep coming back to, that I can't seem to move on from.
Yeah, I don't think we're meant to. I think it's stuff we're meant to sit in.
Like, yeah. And there's even as crew staff, I've experienced periods of time where I'm like, man, Jesus has not been my $14.99 ribeye. Like, I really haven't been joyful about sharing my faith even out of season. Like, I try to draw the lines or say I already do enough. And
right.
Again, it can be an exhausting mindset to be like, I'm not enough. But at the end of the day, I think if we truly believe that the Holy Spirit is the one leading us
mm-hmm.
to share our faith and giving us the courage and the words to say, then obviously it takes energy and it takes courage and a willingness from us. But at the end of the day, it's obedience and readiness for God to show up in the environments maybe we weren't necessarily expecting.
Do you think there's an aspect of this where we fail to see other work as redemptive? And because of that, the gospel feels uniquely burdensome?
Yeah, I would say so. I think even just the line that you said, like Christians share their faith, I think would be really challenging to a congregation at a church. And I feel
Interesting.
like um, a lot of I feel like I'm speaking down, which I don't really like the tone of my voice right now, but I feel like a lot of churchgoers expect that ministry is to be done by the pastors.
Sure.
And I don't know who shared with me, but like a lot of people think evangelism is bringing someone to church and then expecting the pastor to do the rest. And if I'm a pastor, I'd be exhausted.
Right.
I don't know how
Right.
big your church is, but if half the people brought in a friend and then you have to share the gospel and disciple half of them,
Yeah.
like that would be a lot. And so I think I don't know if this really answers your question, but I think there is this like compartmentalize. I don't know if this is what you're trying to say by like the corporate Christianity, where we've like compartmentalized like, oh, I handle, I give the money to the church, and then the church does the evangelism for me.
Mm-hmm.
Versus I think those who are making lots more money and maybe don't have as much capacity for missions, that doesn't mean they're exempt from missions, I would say.
Right. Right. I mean, I ask it because I think that there's a lot of redemptive work other places that doesn't like involve the direct redeeming of people to God, which is clearly like the crown jewel of God's heart in the world. But like, I'm pulling weeds in my garden because you know about my garden.
Yeah.
I'm building the trellis for the grapes. There's just redemption in that. My garden could be completely overrun by weeds right now, and every weed that I pull is redemptive work.
Yeah.
When a doctor heals a person, gives them a diagnosis and is able to help them get better, it's redemptive work. You know, when a person in manufacturing manufactures something that is a good product that helps other people do things, there's redemption to that work. So redemption is happening in a lot of different capacities, right? And to right size the work of evangelism and discipleship in that context, I think is a really, really arduous but important dynamic. Because I think that if we fail to right size that conversation, I think when we look at Scripture, we see that the world is cursed, the ground is cursed, and our very lives are cursed. But we see God's plan for redemption, and redemption happens in lots of different spheres of life. But I think that if we miss out on the redeeming work of people, we're missing out on God's unique heart. Because God cares about carrots and he cares about grapes, but he really cares about people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no other way to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't love people. I mean, we were living in close proximity with people this summer, and you're stepping on each other, and this person parked in your spot, or this thing's happening here. We get in each other's way a lot. But when we take a step back and say, God, what do you think about people? He's like, it's the best I got.
Right.
And it's the thing I care about the most. And it's the one thing in this crazy world, God can remake the mountains and he can remake the fish. But for whatever reason, there's something unique about our personal identities that God says, no, I care about that person. They're not a nameless, faceless person to me. They're somebody unique, made in my image. And it just blows my mind to think about. But it also gives us a missional heart because it's like among all of the weed pulling and all of the manufacturing and all of the doctoring that we're doing, we have to remember that like the soul of a person is what God is most after.
Right. I feel like we could talk about that forever.
It's really profound. I mean, it's
Like,
just, yeah.
The image of God inside of people. Like, what does that actually mean for how we treat them and care about them?
Oh, yeah. That's good.
So, well, I've been really challenged by this podcast. I hope our listeners have as well. Any final thoughts?
I wish evangelism remained as fun as it is sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, I surfed almost every day this summer. It sounds like so. We were a block away from the beach, so it was a very easy thing.
And you got up early to do it. It's
I
not
get
like
up
you were
early
skipping
and
work time.
yeah. But I was able to surf almost every day this summer. And yet there was those moments. I don't know if I want to get out of bed early. I don't know if I want, but in general, it's just you get to the water, the waves are breaking. It's just happy thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Evangelism is not. There's a lot of headwind to sharing your faith, to taking that step. And it can be so gratifying to see people come to know the Lord, but it isn't recreational in the way of like the things we recreate with, pickleball and surfing and fishing and things. And I just think we have to remind ourselves that the treasure of life, it comes from exchanging something good for something that's better. And that might not be a gratifying experience on the front end, but that it has rewards to pay on the back end. So,
yeah,
that'd be my final thought. I don't know. I spend a lot of days, Gerrit, just going, I'm not living for now, right now. I'm not here for it right now. I'm here for eternity. I think in eternity, this is going to make more sense.
Yeah.
I think that if one of these people gets it, like really gets it, and I see him in eternity, it's going to be like so worth it.
It's going to be pretty sweet.
They're going to be like, what? You're here? I think about one of the first people I led to Christ in Brazil, and his name was Nunji. And I'm pretty sure he got it. We met up for like 5 weeks after. And he was reading his Bible all the time and really like thinking deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really hoping I'll probably never see him again in this life. But I'm really hoping we're going to be able to hang out for eternity. And it's going to be like, you did it. You're here.
Yeah.
And I just think that's just going to be amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, you don't necessarily see the fruit of that.
No, I don't know.
Or even in Myrtle Beach where we saw almost 450 people come to Christ.
Yeah.
Like we walk away and we're like, well, I hope.
And you don't know.
You don't know. And that's okay. But yeah, we live in this like, all right, I'm going out. And that to me feels like the most tangible example of faith is like, this feels like something, some days I'm not super excited to do, something that some days I don't see the reward from it.
Right.
And yet I'm doing this. I have some semblance of faith that one day it'll be worth it. And I can't see it right now, and I don't know what it's going to look like later. But we're doing it.
We're doing it. And I think the results are really in God's hands, but at the same time, the stewardship of our life is in our hands. And God has given us a call, and he's asked us to make decisions. And yeah, I feel the calling piece is important, but I also feel like just looking at the scripture and asking how, this old question, how then should I live?
Yeah.
And being able to be honest about it. Like, I can't direct all of my resources all of the time toward all of the things that I want. My life has to be bigger than that.
That's a good thought.
So, I mean, I've been binge watching this surfing podcast, and never heard of this guy before, but he's a former like international surfing champion. But they end up going spiritual a lot on this thing, and they're talking about these swells that happen during like hurricanes and these like big hurricane swells, and then somehow they got on the topic of what it means to be a true Christian. And when he was talking about the swells, he's like, yeah, it's kind of interesting because all these surfers go to these places that are about to be wrecked by hurricanes. And then somehow they got on this conversation of what is a true Christian and are they, what are they like? And all of a sudden, like the surfer national champion guy goes like, I think that true Christians would be the ones that are going to help people instead of surfing.
Yeah. Even when the swells are amazing.
Even when the swells are perfect, I think that true Christians are the ones running in to try to help people. And I think there is that call on our lives to say, like, we want to be those people who are giving up the temporal right now for the eternal, because we really believe this stuff. But I also think we underestimate how hard it is. I just think it's like we hear these sermons and we hear these talks, and we're like, yeah, I'm going to live that way. And then it's like, oh, but Netflix, or, like,
Yeah.
we got to talk about how hard it is. It's hard. It's really hard. And it's a process, and it's a training, and it's developing and taking little steps to step in where it hurts, for sure.
For sure. All right. Well, thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Gerrit.
It's a good talk.
Always fun hanging out.
Yeah. Hope you all enjoyed the episode. We'll see you later.
Hey, smash that subscribe and like, and leave a comment. I hear that's important too.